Hey everyone, it's Andrig with Andrig's Aircooled Technology. Wanted to make an installation video for what's coming here is the Porsche version, the Porsche 356 and 912, not including the 912E, which had the Type 4 engine. Velocity ring installation on your fan shroud. So this is a Porsche 356 fan shroud. Here is the velocity ring for it. And you'll notice there's tabs on here. Right here, and I'm going to show you that close up in a bit. These tabs will come pre-bent for you. You can see that right there. It has a bigger hole, which is where the bolt goes, and a smaller hole in the more unusually bent part of the tab. That's for welding it in place. So these tabs need to be welded in place. I wanted to do this the same way that I had done the early VW fan shroud, where I could just put bolts right through the side here. Problem is the Porsche fan comes up a lot further into this outer ring of the fan shroud, and you can't really get a bolt behind there. It'll get in the way of the fan. So the early VW doesn't have that. So this is very similar on the early VW fan shroud, but the fan, the way it fits, is different. The fans are just different. So that required a little bit of ingenuity to say how I'm going to mount this thing. I didn't really want anything to be welded, but in this case, that's kind of what we've got to do. So this fan shroud, you can probably tell, has been stripped of all of its paint or whatever. Whenever you're going to weld these tabs in place, obviously if you've got paint or powder coat already on the fan shroud, you'll need to remove it where you're going to weld. And then, of course, these are raw steel, so you'll want to either paint or powder coat afterwards. But this is completely removable. Just the tabs will be in place, and you'll be able to unbolt this. So the kit will come with the tabs pre-bent, and you'll want to, these are M3, little M3 bolts. You'll want to just put them, and this is tricky, and I'm sorry for that, but this is really the kind of size bolt that is required. So even for me with my smaller hands, it's a little tricky to get it started. Once you get it started though, the threads are brass in here, so no issue with rusting or anything like that. You don't have to worry about that, and you'll just see how they're kind of bolted on there. You'll just want to tighten it, holding it straight in place with your thumb, as I do here. And this is a 5.5 millimeter wrench. You'll just snug it down, and then once you have all 4 tabs on, then you're ready for the next process, which is the welding process. So it's just going to fit right on there. Those tabs are pre-bent. So you got a hole there to weld with, and of course you can weld around the perimeter as well if you want, but you want to protect the velocity ring from your welding, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so the next step is protecting your velocity ring. I just use painter's tape on this, which should work just fine, because it's just, you're just going to be spot welding. You just don't want spatter, hitting your velocity ring and melting into it, or causing any problems. You want a nice smooth, surface, just like it came out of the box for you. And so I just covered it with painter's tape, and I made it so that you could still see the inside ring, so that it'll sit properly on the fan shroud. So that I put little tears in it and just made sure the inside, spatter, doesn't need to, this doesn't need to be super tight against anything. You can spend a lot of time taping it up if you want, but I did this in just a couple minutes, and that's really all you need to do. Just make sure you can get it, on the fan shroud, and you can still see your tabs. So we want to make sure we got it sitting down there, and we can see our tabs, but we're covered up the pieces that matter. And let's see, where are we? Here we are, right here and right here. Okay, So we've got it now on there. It's nice and on there, good. And you're gonna want to make sure it's, it's sitting on there good when you weld. That's not cockeyed or crooked. So once you got that tab on there, essentially that's where it's gonna live. You could cut it off if it's wrong. So you want to be very careful at this point to make sure before you break out the welder that you've got it seated. And this thing will seat on there just nice and snug. Shouldn't be a problem at all. And then you see your tabs in there. And we'll weld those tabs down into place and just make sure they're pushed in good. Make sure they're pushed in good against your surface. So they're pushed in good against your surface, which these all appear to be nicely pushed in. So when you weld, you'll have a nice clean weld, okay? I'll come back and show you the results. Okay, everyone, we got it. The tabs are welded in place. I used something to weight it down with to hold it, and I also used a screwdriver. Just make sure you hit your screwdriver with some anti-spatter so you don't weld your screwdriver to the tab. But holding it down in place with something, with a little bit of a weight. I happen to have, this steel plate that I use for some annealing stuff, which is plenty heavy enough just to hold it in place. And then you can push down on the tab with the screwdriver. Make sure it's snug against the fan shroud, and then you hit it with the welder. I used 19 amps, around 140 wire speed to do MIG welding. Of course, it could be TIG welded. However somebody wants to do it. And let me show you kind of how it comes out. Let's see if I can get it reasonably on there. You can see it. Hopefully you can see that. You see that right there? So just a nice, right in that hole. Just, you need good aim there. But the hole should be big enough. You get a nice bead right there, and you get good penetration on both sides. And you'll have and if you get a little too hot, you can just keep, putting a little more material on there, and you'll be fine. So that should take care of welding in place. And once you've got it welded in place, then you can go ahead and remove your tape from everything. Your velocity ring should be in. Perfect condition, without any weld spatter or anything to ruin it. You should be in good shape. So then you got a velocity ring installed on your fan shroud nicely, and you can then remove your bolts. Oh, where's my wrench? There's my wrench. You can remove your bolts with your wrench. Once you So, once you've got that removed, you just take this off, and there's your velocity ring, and your tabs are in place. Whoops, just lost all my screws. That's okay. And your tabs are in place, and you can paint that, you can have this powder coated, etc. You can actually see the weld penetration on the inside quite nicely, so that amperage works really well. The 19 amps works really well. And if you got good aim, you'll have tabs that are in place. They won't come loose, and you'll be in good shape. And of course, the bolts that hold it in place once it's done. And that's it really on installing, how to modify the fan shroud a little bit to install your Velocity ring. These Velocity rings outperform the Porsche Velutes by a substantial amount. The Porsche Velutes only add, if I remember right, I'll correct this in the video with a comment. I think it was only like 2 or 3% added airflow. These are over 7%, about 7.27% to be more precise. So much greater airflow from this versus a Porsche Veloute. And of course it's removable, so you can remove it. If you do run into trouble with the tabs, I'll definitely can send you more tabs if you have to grind them off for some reason and the welding's bad, you grind them off, do it again. You don't have a hole or anything that you got to fill in, so you don't have to worry about that. You can grind these off, and if you have a problem with the tabs, and just contact me and I'll get you new tabs for the Velocity ring, and that's pretty much it. So I really appreciate the support. The Velocity rings have been selling well for the VW side of things, and hopefully you guys in the Porsche world will appreciate this and something you're interested in. And that's pretty much it. Appreciate it, and we'll talk to you later.